He's back! The era of Flanknando commences once again. Some of you may be newer, so you might have never heard that nickname for our self-appointed knight. Long ago, there was a time where Fernando was actually the best tank in the game, and people would actually go and flank with him. They'd jump on somebody, and if the target had no vertical movement, they just weren't getting away, and a single character couldn't outdamage Flanknando before he killed them. Then came the nerfs. You guys know how they've basically nerfed Ying every patch for a while now? Well, that was Fernando. They hit him with nerf after nerf every patch. They were constantly beating on him until he just completely fell off the face of the game. The nail in the coffin for him was when legendaries came out, because none of the ones he got were any good at all. Looking back at all the nerfs, they weren't even needed. It just took time for players to realize how good the other tanks were. If they would have waited and not nerfed him to hell, then he would have fallen off on his own. But maybe not as much. Would have been a good thing. That's why it's always good to take the time to see how players develop and evolve before absolutely gutting a character. Anyway, Fernando stood as one of the worst tanks in the game for countless updates, but Hi-Rez finally went back and breathed life into him with OB54. They gave his fireball more projectile speed and took 3 seconds off its cooldown, so it went from 9 to 6 seconds. So what you can do is make a fireball build and get the card Incinerate at tier 4 to give fireball 40% cooldown reduction on top of that. Then you grab the Scourge legendary, and that gives Fireball 30% more base damage and 30% more damage for every target it hits. You could even stack Chronos to get a 1 second cooldown on Fireball. Well, at least it says 1 second. It feels more like a second and a half, really. Either way, it doesn't matter. They also increased his primary's tick damage a little while ago and recently increased his primary's range. So basically, what we have now is a big tanking flanker with a ton of damage potential. If he catches you alone and you don't have vertical movement to get away, you die. Plain and simple. It's just like the old Flanknando, except even stronger. You need to stay with your team and team shot him when he jumps on somebody in order to save them. In this gameplay, I was on the PTS and I was able to deal a whopping 168,000 damage as Flanknando. I was only beaten in damage by my buddy who was on Lian, and he only had 2,000 more than me. I don't think I've ever had so much fun with a tank before. The only two I really like are Ashe for her explosive nature and her bruiser playstyle, and Inara because, well, Inara just takes so much damage while also being able to sustain herself to a certain degree, but neither of those have what makes me love Flanknando, and that is the damage output. Now, all bias aside, I should probably look at this objectively. It is a very good thing that Fernando feels powerful and impactful again. For a while, he's basically been a big deployable barrier that charges ult for people when his barrier goes down. He could stop a Drogo's ult every once in a while, but that alone couldn't really hold him up. Is this boost a little too much, though? Maybe in games where everyone plays off on their own, yeah, but anything could take advantage of a team like that, even Maeve. I think if people play as a team and help each other when Flanknando makes his move, then it should be fine. For the most part, people don't really do that though, so they're going to complain even though it's not really a reason to nerf him back down. What's really going to decide if he's too much is how he performs in higher skill games, and I think he's going to be in a good spot there. He's going to be able to be more active in the fight instead of relying on his barrier all the time, so if the enemy gets wrecked, then he can still put value into team fights. Unfortunately, this does highlight a glaring problem that legendaries still have, even though they tried to fix it with this update. Characters like Fernando only really have one good option for legendary cards. It'd be crazy to not get scored now that Fireball is so good. Aegis gets beaten down by Wrecker, while Formidable gets beaten down by Cauterize. And Dead Zone. There's way more characters that still suffer from this, but let's leave that for another video that'll hopefully be sometime this week, unless news announced at DreamHack gets in the way of that. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about Flanknando's return. Ready to try him out, hop back on him, or ready for Hi-Rez to nerf him so he stops jumping on you? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye!